So in this next attempt to publish videos in this channel, continue to publish videos in this channel in which I talk about my own life journey and I try to describe knowledge and wisdom that I've gathered along the way. I've decided to name the channel Body, Mind, Spirit because it feels like categories that are all at once true and broad enough to include all kinds of different things, and yet at the same time most people understand the importance of body factors, mind factors, spirit factors, body and the physicality of our body and anything connected to that, mind and what we understand mind to be, or sometimes don't understand so well, but everyone has a sense of what that might mean, and then spirit, perhaps the most elusive, but no less important, indeed often as we age, feels like the most important factor of the three, and yet at the same time, to me it has always felt true that the three interact and are critical toward each other, so to speak, and that perception, which goes back many years, has only continued to grow, and my understanding continues to verify that all three are important. And you may remember that in earlier videos, which of course were posted quite a while back, although it is my intention to post more regularly here, in those videos I was talking about questions related to the use of over-the-counter medicines that are not only detrimental to longevity by way of potentially increasing the chances of neural decline through such things as dementia. And this is something that has been well documented now. You can find it all over YouTube if you search for the relevant phrases and the relevant substances. But also, even before that, my sense is that they actually lower energy, they diminish the life force in order to accomplish what they're accomplishing, which in that case, I was talking about people using different things to help them sleep, because sleep is very important. This is how we regenerate our nervous system and our body during the night hours. But both from age and from the fact that life in the North American continent often features a lot of stress, sleep can be very difficult for many people. And so, in a sense, it's no surprise that people would turn to this. But the conclusion to those videos, and I will revisit that topic, by the way, because it's a very important topic, but the conclusion from my perspective is that the more natural our approach is by way of less aggressive substances than pharmaceuticals, so then focusing more on herbs or perhaps supplements that are somewhere in between, not going as far as being too much of a chemical solution, so to speak. That seems to me to be the best way to do it. But now, returning today to this trinity, this triangle of body, mind, spirit, and along those lines, I would say if we're going to start somewhere, if we're going to point to which part of the triangle, I would say, in my opinion, the best way is body. I've never been able to connect to anything good, anything harmonious. By that I mean a sense of really feeling it, of sensing the zone of either mind and or spirit. If the body isn't happy because the body is perhaps too tired, enervated, and especially low energy. Low energy is a problem, both because one doesn't feel good, that's just the basic point, but then the mind isn't going to be working as well, the spirit will not be properly aligned. It won't seem to be there. And this has repercussions not only to our sense of happiness, but also to our creativity. Creativity meaning what we create is what tends to both bring us joy, but also often is the source of our prosperity in our lives. Because even, for example, if one is doing a job that a person may deem uncreative, well, that is what one is doing at that time. So there, even if we're not yet doing something more creative with our energies, it's nevertheless how we pay our bills, how we, as they say, how we earn a living. So it's important to have good body energy in order to meet the task. And it'll also tend to be true that once the body energy is good on a continuous basis, the odds improve that one can shift to a better working arrangement, let's call it, a better situation where one is expressing one's more real creativity in a better way. So to that end, if I focus today on the key feature as far as I'm concerned is vitality. And here the counsel would be try to raise vitality any way you can. Try to raise it and harmonize it. I mean, there are exceptions where a person can have a tremendous amount of vitality at times, but it can be on a manic level, and then that'll be followed by a crash, which of course wouldn't be good. The idea is to raise vitality, and then, like how in scientific terms they talk about raising the energy of the electrons, but then you want them to stay in the place that you've raised them to, at least on a level where you can say, my vitality is better than it used to be. I've figured out how to do this. And this, to my understanding, is accomplished through the things we already all know, meaning you'll probably have to eat well, you'll have to do a certain amount of exercise, and you'll have to get good sleep. They're the three most important points in regard to that. It's of course true that if you then can lower stress in your life, of course, that's helpful. But if those three are working well, stress is automatically lowered, because one of the things that happens when energy is steadily high and one feels rested, one feels like one has been nourished properly, there's a greater sense of ability and competence, and so the odds improve that this vitality will then lead to good things. And this is, to my understanding, absolutely key. It's what, in Western terms, probably the most interesting keyword, or two words actually that I've heard, are the French élan vital, which is really just vitality in English. Notice the vita, the etymology connects to life, literally. And then if you are interested in the Eastern teachings, they refer to it as prana, the prana energy. And you notice that in the Eastern teachings, there is a strong emphasis on breath linking to vitality, which if you're doing ordinary exercise, you're essentially ventilating more, you're moving your breath, which then leads to some raising of the heart rate at least, which then leads to better circulation, etc. But you can also do it just through some form of yogic breathing, where you're either breathing vigorously for brief periods and then resting in between, and or lengthening the breath in both directions. And this has a feeling at first, until one enjoys it more and more, a feeling of doing exercise, which of course if you're doing physical exercise, then that's what it is. But from the breath potential as an exercise, that's what it is as well. It's the idea that you'll show up to do it. And I notice a really interesting pattern around this, that this is something, one of my own reminders to myself. It's like a personal adage where I tell myself, good always gets better and bad will tend to get worse. So if we are in a low energy state, it feels hard to get out of it, and particularly if one doesn't know how. But if the energy is already pretty good, then doing more energy raising and doing things to sharpen the tool of energy, by staying regular with one's practices, tends to be easier. And so, in that sense, the goal becomes to practice enough to reach a point where the condition, let's call it that, becomes more and more steady. And then, at that point, and remember that these factors, body, mind, spirit, they're constantly in play. And so, for example, a person might, having heard this, might get a genuine spiritual inspiration in a very low energy place, or a mental insight that pops in even though the energy is low. But then almost always what will happen, if that were to happen, instead of receiving the inspiration from the vitality of the body, what will tend to happen is part of that inspiration that they get will lead them to then work on their vitality, or lead them to value their vitality more. So it's 6 or half a dozen. They all work together. But in most cases, as to my understanding, realizing that the body is supremely important. It is the foundation of everything. And if you ever think, well, yes, but I feel more like, to me it feels like I'm more like a mind or like a spirit. I mean, the body, tell me something that isn't, it's almost a little bit boring. That's all everybody talks about. Remember that science now knows and has known for many, many years, although it's mentioned in, if you tune into those teachings or to those videos or to those books, but it's not exactly commonplace. It's the knowledge that the body, though it feels solid, appears solid, and we talk about these things as solidity, as matter, as they say, it's also, scientists will tell you, it's also true that it's actually not solid. It's literally, it's electromagnetism. It's more true to say that we are an electromagnetic field. And if you wonder why, when you touch the table, why there appears to be solidity between, in this case, my knuckles and the desk, it's because the electric field of the table is repelling the electric field of my hand. In fact, scientists will say they don't actually touch. There's a magnetic effect, a magnetic repulsion that happens. This is true, and of course, in practical terms, it's not going to help you to think, oh, I'm an electrical magnetic field, I think I can go through a wall. No, you can't, because the wall is an electric field that will reject you. So in standard life terms, it's not that helpful to think this way, except in the sense that if you think this way and it inspires you to realize that when you are doing good things for your body, when you are working to maximize, optimize that energy through what you do and what you don't do. Because a lot of times with the body, it benefits many, many times. People report this, that their life will change when they remove something that is causing the problem, such as too much alcohol or too much sugar or something that is going in there that is attenuating or diminishing the life force. So either or, helping the body to feel better is a fantastic first step toward this end. And there used to be a video here, perhaps I should put it up again, where I recommended a movie on Netflix, and some of you may already have seen it. It's by a really clever psychotherapist named Phil Stutz. And the movie, all of it is great. It gets into other themes in there as well. But one of the things he says, even before he starts talking about the notion of what you can do with your mind, with your attention to improve things, he mentions very specifically, you want to make a change, raise your life energy. Hence, everything that I've said today. Same idea.